Chapter 8 Welfare Without the State by Kristian Niemietz.
Government welfare systems were created to help the poor, sick, elderly, and unemployed. Politicians believed that transferring resources to these groups would end poverty and make society more equal. But they were wrong. Government welfare has been disastrous both for the economy and those it was designed to help. It is the main reason taxes are so high in Western countries, accounting for about half the money governments spend. It has also trapped vast numbers in poverty while often providing very low-quality services in areas such as health.
The poverty trap.
For many people, the welfare state's so-called social safety net is more like a spider's web. In the UK, for example, around 5 million working-age people, most of them capable of working, receive out-of-work payments. More than half of them have done so for several years. The problem of long-term dependence on welfare benefits is found in all Western countries. In the government housing blocks of London's Hackney, Berlin's Neukölln, and Paris's Clichy-sous-Bois, many residents inhabit a parallel universe. They share the laws of gravity with the rest of society, but not the social and economic laws. Outside of the parallel universe, people usually improve their economic situation if they increase their work effort, improve their qualifications, put money aside for a rainy day, and maintain social networks. Inside of this universe, these activities are penalized. Small sums earned or saved lead to a withdrawal of benefits. Even moving in with a partner can mean payments are stopped. Trapped in the web of the welfare spider, people do not just lose formal qualifications, but also the social habits associated with work. While leaving employment has been made relatively painless, barriers have been erected against re-entry. Out-of-work benefits often pay as much as low-skilled jobs. People who argue that welfare benefits are too low look at the sums paid out in cash, but that is only half the story. People on welfare usually get other valuable benefits such as free or subsidized housing. Those who want to work also face huge obstacles created by the government. Minimum wages and strict employment regulations increase the cost and risk of hiring workers. Government controls as well as high taxes make it much harder for people to start their own businesses. There is therefore a strong case for ending the restrictions that stop people providing for themselves. This means introducing free market alternatives to welfare payments and removing the barriers to entry into the workforce. Instead of relying on the government, people would insure themselves against the risk of unemployment, sickness, or disability. Insurance companies, trade unions, and voluntary associations would cover the risk of income loss. It would be in their financial interest to help jobless people to find work and, where necessary, provide them with training. They would ensure that payments went to those genuinely looking for employment rather than those wishing to depend on others for a work-free lifestyle. Private welfare provision would therefore be far more effective at helping the jobless find employment. Private charities can provide an effective non-government alternative in cases not covered by insurance schemes. They tend to be better at tailoring help to reflect individual needs. Their more personal approach also makes it easier to weed out fraudulent claims, a major problem in state welfare systems. Unfortunately, government controls and high taxes have made it far harder for charities to fulfill this valuable role.
Old age provision.
The problems of the poverty trap are mirrored in government old age provision. State pensions and benefits have discouraged people from saving for themselves. Worse still, the rising cost of government schemes now threatens effectively to bankrupt many Western countries. Governments have promised a pension to everyone, but they have not put away money or bought assets to back their promises. In reality, state pensions are paid from current taxes, just like any other welfare benefit. This creates enormous unfairness. The amount received bears little relation to the amount paid in taxes. Instead, it is decided by politicians and therefore often follows political considerations. To buy votes, politicians grant special favors to influential groups. In contrast, people in a free society would save and accumulate reserves while of working age and use them in old age. Since savings would take place over an extremely long time horizon, most people would probably choose to acquire assets in one form or another to benefit from the returns they yield. People would invest in some combination of stocks, bonds, real estate, and perhaps a home of their own. Since people's beliefs differ hugely, so would their savings and investment strategies. There would be funds adhering to the principles of Islamic finance. There would be green funds investing in renewable energy companies and organic farms, and there would be local community funds offering an investment portfolio with a home bias. In any case, people could make provisions in the way that best suits their individual conditions and preferences. A free market approach would allow diverse institutions to develop to help people save for old age, each with different aims, strategies, and principles. Profit-making pension funds, insurance companies, and banks would be obvious candidates. But in this area, voluntary non-profit associations were once highly prominent before the welfare state pushed them out by making long-term provision unnecessary. Friendly societies, cooperative savings banks, and schemes run by trade unions could readily win a large market share. Even low-income earners could, over time, amass sizable fortunes. Private old age provisions would help take the politics out of welfare. The current systems encourage lobbying for political favors at a terrible economic and social cost. The free market alternative would encourage saving, long-term thinking, and work effort.
Healthcare.
Reforms are also desperately needed in the health sector. Government-run healthcare systems are marked by long waiting lists and poor patient care. A typical example is Britain's National Health Service. While many countries such as the USA have some combination of private and public provision, the health sector remains tightly controlled. As a result, patients do not enjoy the full benefits of competition and free markets. Government controls tend to raise the costs of care and deny access to the latest treatments. Life-saving activities, such as trade and transplant organs or using new drugs, may even be banned completely, indirectly killing huge numbers every year. In a free society, competition would take place on many different levels, between different medical philosophies, different codes of practice, and different ways of evaluating the safety of drugs and the qualification of doctors. There would be competition between different healthcare providers, and a wide variety of institutions could coexist. This would help to keep costs down and ensure speedy access to the latest treatments. Patients would be treated as customers, and care would better reflect their needs rather than those of doctors and health officials. Profit-making insurance companies, hospital chains, etc. would obviously be well placed in a competitive marketplace. But it should not be forgotten that numerous non-profit, voluntary associations inhabited the healthcare sector before the welfare state cut the ground from under their feet. Friendly or fraternal societies, cooperatives, and trade unions ran insurance schemes. Hospitals were often set up as independent charitable or educational institutions. There is no reason why the healthcare sector of a free society should not be able once again to accommodate such variety. Again, incentives would change profoundly. In a modern welfare state, the cost savings resulting from healthy lifestyle choices do not go to the individual concerned. Governments therefore try to fill the void by the use of advertising campaigns, sin taxes, and heavy-handed regulation. Under the alternative arrangements described above, insurance schemes would put price tags on health-related habits. Nobody would be bullied to stop smoking or to start exercising. However, they might decide to do so to cut their health insurance payments.
Why have welfare systems?
The failure of government welfare calls into question the existence of these vast tax-funded systems. Instead of any single system, why not have dozens, indeed hundreds of competing ways in which people protect themselves against the various risks in life and provide for difficult times? There is surely nothing special about welfare. That means it should be subject to levels of state control which would generally be considered unacceptable anywhere else. For example, there is no British leisure system. There is no American, French, or German one either. In each of these places, there are myriads of ways in which people can spend their spare time. Nobody created what could loosely be called the leisure industry. It just evolved. People were looking for ways to entertain themselves or relax. Entrepreneurs had an inkling of what people in their area might find enjoyable and set up cinemas, nightclubs, or travel agencies. Some failed, some succeeded. Indeed, of any singular system, we find a huge variety of different business models interacting and competing with one another. This complex fabric is constantly evolving and changing its shape. It is a testing ground for new business ideas. Few people suggest that our free time should be organized in a different way. Yet from a classical liberal or libertarian perspective, it is just as nonsensical that there should be such a thing as a British healthcare system or a French pension system.
Unleashing choice and competition.
The free market alternative to government welfare systems should consist of free choice and never-ending competition. There are several general reasons why this would be more effective than state welfare. Providers who constantly face the threat of losing customers to competitors face strong incentives to improve the quality of their products and/or lower their prices. Governments cannot really know people's needs and wishes. Private entrepreneurs do not possess this knowledge either, but markets put their ideas to the test with the profit and loss account offering them continuous feedback. Even if governments knew people's wishes, they would still not know how best to fulfill them. This knowledge has to be discovered via the market. The market is a permanent trial and error process which continually discovers the best way of serving individual needs. Successful ideas grow while less successful ones change or disappear. These arguments help explain the failure of government welfare services. Imagine you ran a nationalized healthcare system and were given an extra £1 million to invest. How would you know whether patients preferred more preventive treatment, newer drugs, or better equipped surgeries? And should these be delivered in hospital clinics or by self-employed doctors? In the absence of a testing ground with clear feedback mechanisms, you would either have to make an informed guess or rely on the advice of professionals. In the latter case, the door would be open to producer capture, when nationalized industries cater for the needs of their workers instead of their customers. Unleashing the power of competition would therefore vastly increase the diversity, quality, and affordability of welfare goods. It would also amount to a massive transfer of power from the government to the individual. It would enable individuals to take their lives into their own hands instead of relying on the promises of politicians. Individuals would also be free to form voluntary communities of solidarity and mutual support. If the state must have a role in welfare, it should be limited to modest cash transfers, enabling poor people to purchase insurance services themselves. Governments should not use their powers to prevent private companies, voluntary associations, and charities from playing a leading role. Criticism of welfare states is often confused with a lack of sympathy for the poor. In fact, the poor stand to gain the most from free market reforms. When government welfare fails, rich people are least affected. They can always afford better alternatives. It is the disadvantaged who deserve the chance to experience the benefits of choice and competition.